see, the halt would walk, the dead would rise. And this ideal was immediately in place before the birth of modern science as the goal of the exploration of matter. And I think that we are possibly looking at a technology which the newspapers will call time travel, but which the people who create it will explain, well, it's not that at all. You see, it's actually a reductive doubling of hyperspatial feedback in a heteroclinic situation. But it comes off as time travel. Because one way that I can imagine linear history ending is by it just simply ending. You know, linear history depends on the past staying what it is. If you have time travel, it's possible to imagine a cultural domain where the past is constantly being changed, in which case you can't describe the ebb and flow of novelty with a simple Cartesian graph. So it could be something like that. Or it could be something somewhat of a metaphysical type. I mean, here's the Stephen King version of what it could be. Imagine if on the day of concrescence the sun exploded. Well, now that would certainly put rainforest activism in a quandary. The explosion of the sun would kill all life instantly on the earth. We don't know what death is. You know, our secular materialists cheerfully assure us that it's a big nothing, but that's just their guess. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But a mass die-off like that would instantaneously propel the entire biota of the planet into death, whatever that is. And that might be part of the dynamics of the solar system. I don't like that idea. It's rather morbid. But there are some problems with the sun. There are some curious disjunctures between measurement of solar radiation and nuclear theory that suggest that the sun may not be as healthy as we would like it to be. Yeah. Psychedelics catalyze the imagination, inform the population, and allow people to entertain larger perspectives than the completely pissant perspectives which they're being given by the popular media. I mean, the popular media exhibits no imagination at all. That's why we have no space program. That's why we have no advanced research project agency, no commitment to explore the solar system, and so forth and so on. It turns out that really was all being done to beat the Russians. All that fine talk about space flight and the outward urge, that was just Pentagonese horse shit so they could dig into our genes and build intercontinental ballistic missiles. We who believed that we were headed out into the starry universe were, as usual, shafted. Well, that's a little coda on that. I see it's time to knock off for a while. We have time for one more question, though. Is this working for people? I mean, I wander one way and then another. No, you.
What you just said about all this, the space program stuff. Why there seems to be this incredible influx of sci-fi in the media, as far as like programming and television, films. Mm-hmm. What's your comment on that?
Well, I think that virtual reality, the entertainment industry, I mean, if you look at the figures, if we spent as much money trying to save the planet as we are spending trying to develop advanced systems of electronic entertainment, hell, we'd fix it overnight. That would just be a done deal. I'm suspicious. I'm a techno fan, and I use technology, and I'm into it. But I was with Howard Rheingold one night, actually here at Esalen, when we achieved a kind of apotheosis together. And he said to me, he said, "My God, I've just realized what virtual reality is for." And I said, "What's it for, Howard?" And he said, "It's to keep us from ever leaving the planet." And I see in the game design and in the website design and in the look and feel of the net how it's to be a simulacrum of the great frontier. You know, it's going to all be virtual, the trip to Pluto and the conquest of Mars and the journey out to Andromeda. I think that I don't fault technology. You just have to be very aware. But, it's like heroin. And we must not consume, we must produce. As a community, the psychedelic community must produce art, not consume it. If they get it flowing the other way and we begin to consume it, then we are depotentiated. So what I've said, the millennial program is to put the art pedal to the floor. In virtual reality, the difference between a 10-story building and a 100-story building is 1 0. Enter the 0, and it's now a 100-story building. We can build with light. The constraints of material and the constraints of capital investment that have limited us in three-dimensional space are not going to be present in VR. And I think we're going to be able to build those castles in the sky. And that what I've said this many times, as I see the late 20th century cultural enterprise, what we're trying to do here is turn the human body inside out. We want to take the mind, which is this invisible hyperspatial organ with its teeming imagination, and we want to make it literal or virtual. We want to bring it into existence. Meanwhile, the body has become, because there are so many bodies, a real drag on the political system. So the body wants to become something freely commanded in the imagination. And it's literally like we are turning ourselves inside out. And this is an alchemical process. So now I've spoken of the alchemical process as something happening to the body, as a cultural enterprise building a tool, as an irresistible motion toward an attractor, which can be glimpsed through the hyperdimensional vision conferred by psychedelics. And then it merely remains to unpack and download these ideas into the popular and mass culture, because I think they assuage anxiety. People feel better about themselves and the fate and direction of the world. But, we have painted ourselves into a hell of a situation here. The momentum of our past mistakes is staggering. The good news is we primates love a good fight, and we don't really get our dander up until the last possible moment. This is it. This is the last possible moment. As old pilots like to say, I think we're turning final here. These weekends tear past with amazing rapidity. And I was lying in bed last night thinking of everything that was not said, and it seemed like hardly anything was said. I don't know what that means. In myself personally, I've noticed in the last year or so a sense that the vision or the thinking about our circumstance has become almost for me like a full-time job. I really don't want to go anywhere, and I don't want to do anything. I just want to hold the understanding in my mind. And I don't know exactly where this is leading. It's probably leading to writing more books and doing less traveling. In terms of launching various memes, I think they're pretty well launched. The idea that the psychedelic experience needs to be given a place in the social toolkit, the idea that we need to seriously revision our relationship to nature and the future. I think all these things have come a distance. Yeah.
I'm real curious about one thing. Why is it important for you to do this?
I wonder myself. You mean, am I the alien ambassador, whether I like it or not? Well, often when asked this question, I've said, it beats honest work. I mean, my brother is a PhD in 3 subjects and works in hard science, and I don't think it's brought him immense happiness, not that he's despondent, but I was always kind of a slider, and certainly when I reached La Chorrera in 1971, I had a price on my head by the FBI. I was running out of money. I was at the end of my rope. And then they recruited me and said, with a mouth like yours, there's a place for you in our organization. And, I've worked in deep background positions about which the less said, the better. And then, about 15 years ago, they shifted me into public relations, and I've been there to the present. I think ideas get me high, and I like the feeling of understanding. And I love diversity to the point of weirdness. I mean,
There's more to it than that for you because, being tuned into ideas and turned on by ideas is one thing, but you can keep that just to yourself. The sharing of it is something else. I think that's what I'm getting. Why do you do that?
Well, one thing is, I'm really fascinated. I think of myself as a pretty savvy person, and not easily led into false dogma. And yet, this is such a strange idea. And so it's basically a plea for help. It's not a cult. It's not that I want you to join me in believing in this. It's that this is so outlandish that join me as a scientist would join a research team, and let's cut it to pieces and show that it was simply a misunderstanding of information theory coupled with bad mathematics spliced onto a weak ontology or something like that, because this I could live with the time wave if I only had to read about it in Time magazine and that it was being developed by Negroponte and Prigozhin.